And I'm also going to pass around the Juneteenth sign up, of course. So we got that too.
You know these cards?
What parts?
These?
Oh, yeah.
These, yeah. So you can put something on the back here. Vista Print gave us a coupon as a new pack that we can get 500 for $10.
Awesome. Let's do that. Yeah, totally.
So I'm going to put something in the back, you know, so we can sign. I'll pass it on to you guys and get
All right, let's see if we can put it out.
I gotta go. Yeah, that's why I wore the summery dress.
You're live whenever you're ready.
All right, y'all, I think we'll get started. So if everybody can get a seat, we'll get going. We have a lot of good stuff going on today. All right. So I just want to welcome everybody to our May meeting. We are through the primaries, so this is kind of our unofficial, official kickoff of looking towards November. So we also have a number of candidates in the room who won their primaries, and even if they're uncontested, that's a big deal. So thank you to all the candidates in the room for your hard work, and we're just looking forward to supporting you as we go into November. We have a bunch of important announcements and things going on in the group. I would like to thank everybody for coming out. I'm hoping that we can keep this momentum going and bring more and more people in as we get closer to November. But a couple things that we want to discuss today. We have three excellent candidates scheduled to speak, as well as a few others who were guests today who are going to tell us a bit more, who've spoken to us in the past. But today, our honored guests are going to be Rachel Kinsey, running for Senate District 14. Nicole Brimmer Nash running for Senate District 21. And Charles Ravenscraft running for House District 22. And we're going to get into some more updates about this later. First, we're going to have our guests speak to us, but I just want to go ahead and announce that, so this organization here that rented this facility, we are a 501c4. We are a civic engagement group, but members of this group have also, people have founded a super PAC. So we now have a super PAC with some money in the bank, and we will talk more later on about what can be done with this tool as we go into the midterms. I'm going to go ahead and pass around these flyers and also a sign-up sheet for the Juneteenth Festival. So we had an excellent time last year at the Juneteenth Festival in Marietta, hosted by the local NAACP chapter. Amanda Robinson, she's on vacation right now, but she set up all of this and generously donated the sign-up fee for that just as a donation to the group. So we got the sign-up sheet here. There's only 2 spaces per time slot, but if it's already filled in, just put your name down. We would just love to have you out at any point. We're going to have a table. We're just going to be engaging voters and making them aware of our presence and helping just get them involved in what we do. So it was a lot of fun last year, and I hope that you all can make it out. So I'm just going to pass this around, and if you want to take a flyer, you can just make the rounds. Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and get us going with our guests, but just to mention a few other pieces of swag over here, we do have our lovely t-shirts that are $10 a pop. You can either give that money to me or just promise to donate on our website. I trust all the people in here if you want to get one of our t-shirts. Also, thank you to Amanda Robinson for that. And I also just want to, yes, definitely. And I also just want to thank Glenn, who's been hard at work on our website and also set up the donate page for the Super PAC. So thank you very much to Glenn for that. All right, so we will go ahead and get going with our guests here before we get to other items of business. So our first guest this evening, or not this evening, it's an afternoon. This afternoon is going to be Charles Ravenscraft running for House District 22, and all candidates are going to have 15 minutes. You can do that however you like. I'll signal to you from over here. 15 minutes to give your speech, take some questions from us, and tell us how we can help you get elected. So thank you very much, Charles.
This is encouraging. This attendance. It shows that we have a resolve. It shows that we are no longer afraid and hiding in the shadows. We are no longer ashamed to call ourselves Democrats. Our numbers at the primaries showed that we are not going to tolerate the bigotry, the racism, the insensitivity, and the absolute madness that is going on in the Republican Party right now. It's very encouraging to see everybody here. Thank you. My name is Charles Ravenscraft. I am running for House District 22. Covers Eastern Cherokee County, 3 districts in Northern Fulton, and 3 districts in Forsyth. My primary was uncontested. It looked good. So, I'm going to kind of start off by telling you kind of who I am and what I am. But I'm going to start this off by saying what I am not. I am not a panderer. I tell it how it is, and that's what I think is how I say it. I'm not afraid to speak my mind. Speak my mind. I am not a leader. I do not consider what I'm running for to be a leadership position. I'm a union member, and as such, we have positions called stewards. They are representatives of the hall, but they are also the people that watch the men and watch the workers and help make sure they're taken care of. I consider the position I'm running for being a steward to my community. I consider it being the voice for my community. To say that I am a leader would say that I elevate myself above anybody that is in my district, to say that I'm better than anybody in my constituency. I don't think that's the case. I think I'm there to help be a voice and help be a representative to my community. I am not afraid. I'm not afraid to stand up next to my opponent and tell him what I think about it, or to engage him. I've gotten to meet him once so far. It was cordial, and that's about as far as we're going to get with it. It was trying, that's for sure. So what I am first and foremost a union member. I am a member of the IBEW. I am a union electrician in my main capacities, but right now I work as a field organizer. I basically go out and try to help recruit people into the union, help them attain better lives. It's pure and simple what we do. Nothing more I can say about that. I am compassionate. That is what needs to, you need to be in order to do this thing. You need to be able to relate to people's issues, not just be shut off to other, to issues and people's problems. I am open-minded. I don't care if you don't even agree with me, or if I don't agree with you. I will sit and I will listen to what your issue is and try to be as objective about it as possible. And if we walk away still not agreeing with each other, I will have at least given you the respect to sit there and listen to what you had to say. Now, things I'm running on. The middle class, the average person, I feel like we have been wholly misrepresented for a long time. I feel like we are just a forgotten group of people that nobody seems to care about. It's only about who gives the most money, who lobbies the best, who can fill the pockets of the representative, of the congressman, who can do it the best, who can do it the most. That is the person that has the ear and has the voice. That is unacceptable. We are a country governed by the people. We are the people. So as such, what I believe in and what I'm trying to accomplish is making sure that we have a voice under that golden dome for all of us. I believe in a minimum wage increase first and foremost, because first of all, minimum wage is a sham. It does not take care of people. And if you run a business to where a person has to work 2 and 3 jobs, still working over 40+ hours, and they still have to be on government assistance, shame on you. You are a bad person, and you are a horrible business owner. So my first steps on doing that is I would like to see the minimum wage in Georgia to very quickly go to a minimum of $10 an hour. It's at $5.15 right now. Now, we do still follow under most of the federal mandate of 7 1/4, and that is still unacceptable. But if we baby step it to $10 an hour, and then ultimately we're going to fight for the 15, it is attainable. And it is not ridiculous or outrageous to expect people to demand that their labor be worth it. I believe in Medicaid expansion. There is no good reason why somebody should be afraid of going bankrupt or dying before they can get treated And I'm going to tell you flat out, I've got insurance, I've got decent insurance, but I have been guilty of that. I have been guilty of going, well, maybe I shouldn't, it's not bad enough for me to go to the doctor because I can't miss work. That is unacceptable for a society. We should not fear losing everything or dying over an illness. And it is also not right to have hospitals shutting down in rural areas because the people are not insured. I was up at the Kegels event, and there was, I want to say it was Duncan, who was running for lieutenant governor. I believe is the one that said, well, we shouldn't expand Medicare or Medicaid because they only pay 80% of the bill. So it's not right it's not good for them to take that 20% loss. And on one of the times I almost got kicked out. I said, well, I'd rather have 80 than nothing.
Yeah.
That is what we go against. That is the mentality of, well, we just shouldn't have to do it. And it's not right. We are feeding money to the federal government anyway for Medicaid. And we were one of the 19 states that told Obama, nah, we don't want your money. And the reasoning for it was for pure bigotry reasons. It was for no other reason than that. I believe in education. I believe that, one, we need to add vocationals back into our school programs as a whole in the curriculums. We've been sold on this dream for probably 20 years or better, longer than, as long as I was even in school, that everybody's going to go to college. Everybody has to go to college. What has turned into a business for institutions to reap lots of money and take advantage of students through student loans and high tuition costs, and selling them a piece of paper that is really not necessarily worth the ink it's printed on. It's a grossly overestimated now at this point, and it's almost discouraging. We do need to give these students an option, give them abilities to learn trades, let them know that, hey, it's not, you don't have to worry about this is not the only way you're going to make it. I was talking with a teacher today, and one of the things that I told him that I want to see changed in Georgia, teachers are not allowed to collectively bargain in the state of Georgia. It is a law for a group of people not to be able to organize. That is ludicrous, insane, and just downright disgraceful. So that causes a condition where now the teachers are basically run through fear and intimidation and have to comply and fall in line and are still not guaranteed to maintain their jobs. What does that do for our children when we're educating them? When a teacher does not know from one day to the next whether or not they're going to have a job come August. It makes for a poor education experience, and it is not right. Those are my main platform values that I have. My other, things are fairly simple. I am a strong supporter of the LGBTQ, did I get them all? Community. I am a strong supporter of it. There is no excuse why they should be treated any differently than us. There is absolutely no difference. A person should never have to worry and have to fight for rights that should be afforded to everybody. There is no difference between a person's race, religion, creed, or preferences. So the fact that in 2018 we're still having to fight these fights is ridiculous. So I stand for that. I'm going to say one thing on abortion. I can't have one. What business do I have to say? There is only one person that my opinion on whether or not an abortion should occur would be my wife, and we can't have kids anymore, so it's a moot point to me. Other than that, it's none of my business. We have, we have so many issues and things that come up and things that to me that seems that why do we still talk about it at this point in time? Why are we still having to?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, why do we still have to be discussing wage gap between a male and a female? That's one of the good things I like about being a union member. It doesn't matter in our local, whether you're a man or a woman, you are paid the same as long as you are in the same level. So the fact that this is actually still an issue is absolutely remarkable to me.
How do you feel about gun control of sex?
Yes, that was going to be my next one. This is one of my big ones of why do we still have to discuss this? Because the answers are there and it's so obvious. I am one of the Moms Demand Action gun sense candidates. I do not go for saying gun control because that incites a fear in people that I'm going to come and take away your weapons. And that is not what I feel is necessary. That's not right. But what is right is gun ownership responsibility. Yep. The fact that there are 10 people dead in Santa Fe right now because somebody couldn't keep his damn guns locked up is absolutely ridiculous. The fact that there are 4 people dead in Nashville because a person that was deemed mentally incompetent and had his guns taken away were given back to him by his father. His father should be charged right along with him for an accessory. These are the types of things that we decry that this needs to happen, and it shouldn't be a liberal talking point. This is just a basic desire. If a person is deemed to have epilepsy, one of the first things that happens in the state of Georgia, they have their license taken away. Why? They've committed no crime. They've done nothing wrong. Because they are a potential threat to themselves and to the community because of the unknown nature of if they're going to have a seizure while driving. If a person is deemed to be a potential threat to themselves or everybody else due to a mental instability, they should have their weapons taken away until such times they are deemed fit to have their weapons back and they are stabilized. It is not an unreasonable request. It is not infringing on our right. It's a common sense here. I don't understand why it's so hard for people to, on the other side to understand that. So that's where I stand with the Second Amendment. We need common sense gun laws. There is one thing I do want banned. I want bump stocks banned. There is no good, honest reason why somebody needs a bump stock. It makes the weapon inaccurate, first of all, and what you're trying to tell me is, oh, I should have a fully automatic weapon. No. Somebody argues me that point, I'll tell them, look, I want a Nissan Skyline R25 engine. That's banned in the United States, by the way. But why? It's just an engine. Well, because it makes the car extremely fast. So we're not allowed to have it. So I'm not telling you you can't have your gun. I'm just telling you you can't have something that makes your gun even more dangerous. It is not an unreasonable request. And
why are we still talking about climate change?
Yes, I have a unique perspective on things involving environment, especially when it comes to energy generation. I have worked in almost every facet of power generation there is. I've worked in a coal burner, I've worked in a combined cycle gas, I've worked in nuclear, and I've worked in solar farms. There is no worse means of generating power than coal. It is It is dirty, it's disgusting, it's archaic, and to tell me that it does not control our weather is an absolute falsehood. I've sat there at Plant Bowen and watched weather and rain coming in over the horizon, and as soon as it gets near our plant, it goes and splits and it goes right back. So to tell me that this does not control our climate and our weather is just an absolute falsehood to me. But the fact that there is more than enough evidence that supports that we are having an effect on our weather, and yet it still falls on deaf ears, is absolutely ridiculous.
Time for one or two more questions.
Okay.
What about Vogel? What would you do related to that?
Okay, this is where I kind of start losing people a little bit. She's asking about Plant Vogel. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not going to tell you otherwise. I am not in favor of Vogel shutting down. I do like nuclear generation. It is actually one of the better generations of power. That, and also if we lost Vogel, there would be about 5,000 people put out of work immediately. And that's a hard pill for me to swallow for my guys. Other than that, the business aspect of it, I think, was a sham, and it was true.
All right, but what about the bill payers getting stuck with
That was great. And you know why that happened? Because no matter what happened with the charge, how everything worked out, Southern Company would get $100 million a year for doing this. So they're sitting there going, we don't have to finish it, but we still get $100 million a year. So why are we going to finish it? But I think they're on track to make it where they can't keep sticking us for it. Let me get one more real quick.
How much does your opponent, how much money do they get from Southern Company or Jordan Power?
From everything I've seen, my opponent really doesn't get much directly from the lobbyists or whatnot. So I don't really think he gets much out of it. He kind of doesn't really get into that issue too much, I don't think. So,
All right.
thank you all.
Thank you very much, Carl. And we're gonna later on after the meeting, we'll post everybody's pages so that you can, get their website, get all their info and more information about them. We're gonna continue on here, and we're gonna have our next honored guest is Rachel Kinsey, running for Senate District 14. So, thank you.
I want to thank you guys for coming out. I know it's Saturday afternoon. I really appreciate coming out and listening to all the fantastic candidates we have, hearing what we are going to do for you guys when we're elected to the Capitol in November. I'm Rachel Kinsey. I am running for State Senate in District 14, which is Cherokee County, Cherokee County, Cartersville, Canton, all up that area. I've got a couple of precincts in Cobb County and the Kennesaw area as well. Just kind of like what Charles is going to do, I'm going to tell you who I am, where I come from, so you guys get a really good idea of what my values are, what my passion is, and why I'm running. I am a first-time candidate. My daughter, who's 13, came to me after the school shooting in Florida, said, "Mom, I think you need to run." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's a big undertaking, sweetie. It's not just say I'm going to run. It's a big thing." And she goes, "Well, I think you need to run." She goes, "You're really smart." I said, "Well, thanks. Glad to know in 13 years to figure that out." Because it's not just about smart. You got to be able to talk to people. You've got to be able to listen to people. You've got to be able to sit down and go, we're going to agree to disagree on this topic, but what's our common ground? How can we move forward together to make a change? She goes, "You can do all that." She goes, "You do that in your business now." And I said, "Okay." And I said, "All right, well, let me think about it." Then I saw the posting and the cry out from Cherokee County going, "We need people to fill. Let's go." So I'm like, all right. So I threw my hat in, went down to the Capitol with my daughter and my dad, put the little registration in. It's like, that's it. It's all it takes to run, just a piece of paper and a check. And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, all right, maybe I can do this. That was in March. It is now May. And I'm like, wow, I run my primary, although I didn't have anybody running against me, but still a victory is a victory. I was like, yes. So that was in the bag. I got my first political win in the bag. I'm so excited. And I'm like, all right. So I looked at my team, I'm like, the real work is about to start. And they're like, okay. And I've got a fabulous team who's been supporting me from the very beginning. Me jumping on going, hey, we have this event and we don't have anything. Who wants to do a postcard? Who can do a flyer for me? And I've been so amazed by how many people who are willing to step up and help because they've heard me talk or they've come to me and said, hey, I really like how you are as a person. I'm a mom. I have a 13-year-old and I have a 3-year-old. My husband and I are small business owners. So I feel the pain of having employees come to me and say, I need to make this much because I've got to pay my bills. I need these kind of benefits. And on the same token going, oh, all right, so we've got to start shopping around for health insurance. It is amazing how expensive it is to provide health insurance to employees. I was floored. It's also amazing how expensive it is for health insurance to be provided for my family. I'm a small business owner. We actually didn't have health insurance for the first 9 months last year because we couldn't afford it. It was, do I give my employees what they need or do I get health insurance for my family? I invested in my people because my people are amazing. So we went without health insurance. My son fell, knocked himself out. We had an awesome trip to the emergency room. $3,700 later, I was like, wow. And it made me think, what about those families who are not fortunate like we are, or hey, you know what, I can't pay this now, but I'll break it up into payments for you. It really made me think. There are people who look at that, just like Charles said, and go, I can't pay this. That means I can go without rent or without groceries. And that really was concerning. So I sat there and I'm like, all right, so what else can I bring to the table? I'm a product of 2 public educators. My mother just retired, so Chapman's here, yes. My mother just retired from teaching after 30 years. So Friday was her last teaching day. Wednesday will be her official last day at the county. And I was there her last day, and I was there her first day when I was 5. And it was amazing watching in 30 years how much public education has changed. 30 years, my mother went from being able to teach to now administrating tests, to sitting there with the kids, pulling them one-on-one, going, we have to do your reading assessment, we have to do your math assessment. I don't have a parapro to help me this day. I have to go from 6:30 in the morning to 5:30 at night with these kids in my classroom. My lunchtime is my planning time. I don't get a bathroom break. And it was just amazing in the 30 years. And even since I graduated school, what has changed in the school system then? My daughter brings me Common Core homework, and I look at it and I'm like, yeah, can't do this math with you because you can't do it the way that I learned it. And I don't understand this Common Core stuff. So there's many FaceTimes with my mother going, how do I do this? So that was one of the reasons I wanted to, is education is so important to me. But it's the education that children need, and it means supporting the teachers. So the teachers need more help. They need more funds. I can't tell you the amount of money my mother spent 30 years on providing snacks for the kids who couldn't have a snack, bottled water, supplies, things like that. And our teachers need more funding from the state. I know in the 2019 new funding bill, they said they fully funded education. They didn't fully fund education. They cut over $1 million from pre-K. They cut special needs education down. And they funded education based on an equation from the 80s. So that equation is really, really old. In the 80s, we did not have internet. We did not have active boards. We did not have tablets. My daughter doesn't use textbooks anymore. Everything is online. And there are kids in her school who don't have access to internet. So how do they learn? So this is one of the things I want to work with my fellow people going, what can we do to support education? If you get a good education, it gives you choices. Choices give you freedoms. You can go out and get that job you want to get. You can get, make more money. You can get a job that's got better benefits. You can travel. You can see the world. You can provide your community with volunteer hours because you're not afraid to take off of work. You can donate to charities that are needing it. So education is really big for me. The second thing is gun violence. Having a 13-year-old in the school system is terrifying. Having a mother who was a teacher was terrifying. I can't tell you the number of times I picked my daughter up from school, and there's just a school shooting the other day. And she goes, there's another one. Yep, there's another one. What are we going to do about it? Just like Charles, I'm not here to take your guns. I'm here to protect the responsible gun owners. I personally do not own a gun. I'm afraid my children will get it. But I am not against owning a gun. If you can be a responsible gun owner and you can work within the laws, and we need to change the laws, have a gun. Do you need mass ammunition? No. I'm against getting those large ammunitions. I'm against bump stocks. Why do you need to turn a semi-automatic weapon into an automatic weapon? Hunters don't use those. Why? They leave so much carnage behind. It's meant to kill. It's meant to destruct. So gun violence is very important for me, getting universal laws. Agencies don't talk to each other in the state of Georgia. States don't talk to each other around the United States. Just what happened in Tennessee. He was a gun owner in one state. He lost his guns in the one state and went to Tennessee and was able to get his guns back because there's no universal registration system. We need to have that. But in Georgia, the agencies don't talk to each other either. So we need to work with the different counties, the different police departments, the different agencies, and get people on the same page. So that's really important to me as well. The environment's very important to me. I have like a kid. I live in this weather. My husband's a severe asthmatic, and he can't go outside on days like this because he has trouble breathing. And it stinks because we can't go anywhere or do anything unless we have like 50 inhalers with us. So having clean air, clean water is so important. There are children and families in the state who do not have access to clean water. And that's something you don't think about. I mean, this is almost 2019. Who doesn't have clean water? Who can't go turn the faucet on and get the filtered water? So that's really important, working together with our legislators, get solar power. There's no reason why there can't be more solar power in the state of Georgia. So that's what I really, really am working hard for. I'm also working really hard to go out and talk with the voters and find out what's important to you all. I'm different than the lady sitting there and the lady sitting there and the gentleman back on what's important. And I want to hear from everybody, what's important for you? What can I do with you in your community and bring that to light and work together on common sense legislation and work with the other side that we are going to need to work with to get anything going. So that's pretty much my speech. I don't have real long ones. I like to get right to the point, but I really like to take questions. So if you guys have questions, please ask away.
We've got 5 minutes or a little bit more. Anybody has any questions?
Somebody ask a question.
I have one initially, actually. This is one that I just always like to ask. You know, I don't, not to get into mudslinging or, you know, insulting your opponent or anything, but could you tell us a bit about who you're running against?
Okay, I can tell you.
How you differ and how you're going to be better than that person.
I can tell you I'm running against Bruce Thompson. I've never met him. I think he now realizes that he's got a fight on his hands. Before, I'm sure he saw my name on the ballot and was like, who is this girl? What does she think she's doing? She's probably one of these women that just want to get up and run. I got over 3,000 votes in the primary, and I was just so thankful and grateful. And I think he now realizes he's going to have a fight on his hands. Bruce Thompson is a deacon in his church. He is very pro-family. He is very pro-religion. And he also is pro-life. He is not pro-choice. He is a gun owner. He speaks very well, but him and I seem to have common ground on the gun ownership. I looked at his website, and that's the only way I get news. I've invited him to a few things, and he has chosen not to come. We're going to keep inviting him during the election, and if he doesn't come, okay, but I've never met him. I know he has put forth some legislation on the religious legislation in Georgia. He has voted for the terrible voter law, trying to get us, trying to do that whole thing. He voted for that. That's all I really can tell you about him. He doesn't have a lot on his website that's really updated or changed, so it's just he is pro-baby, pro-guns, and pro-religion. That's all I can do. Yes, ma'am.
When he characterizes himself as pro-family, you are also pro-family.
I am.
Because you care about the environment, your children's lives, and guns, and how they affect them, and their future. So I don't think he should be able to co-opt that term, and I think, everybody needs to use the language to their advantage, but, don't let them co-opt.
No, and there's a different thing being pro-life, pro-choice. Everyone, you're those, and you're not. Because I think everybody should be able to decide for themselves. I don't want my husband coming to me going, you can't have an abortion if you need it, or you can't go get checked up if you need it at the doctor. So if that's what he wants to believe in, he wants to fight for, that's fine. But I am pro-family. Yes.
Pro-family. And I think, Democrats are also pro-family.
Yeah, they are. And most people are pro-family. Yeah, most people are pro-family. They want to have their family, whatever the makeup is. So.
So Patrick Online, will we ever invest in trains on this side of town?
That is a really good question. And I don't think we will really. I think eventually it's going to take a number of years. And we all know the fight Cobb County is having And until Cobb County figures out, I don't think Cherokee County, we need to invest in public transportation. Nobody is going to come to the state of Georgia with the way traffic is. You know, even driving down, I went to the Georgia Democrat dinner, and driving downtown, we hit horrible traffic. And I was sitting in the car going, this is ridiculous. If I had MARTA, I don't care, my ball down heels, I would have been on MARTA going downtown, because then I'd have to sit in traffic with everyone in the car and just burning everything into the sky. So public transportation is a must. And not only that, just getting around the county. For people to get to their jobs and everything. It's not a friendly area for public transportation. We need to make it friendly.
That being said, my question is, who are the powers that be that determine that instead of a train, that this extension on the highway was going to be express lanes instead of a train? Who makes that decision?
That is a good question, and I do not know enough about that at that time to say, hey, this is who we need to go talk to, kind of a thing. I don't know enough about who decided on the express lanes versus putting in a train or getting the MARTA buses up this way. So
Georgia, the CDOT does that.
And the ARC.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, yesterday, the Board of Education passed a resolution on teachers. How do you feel about that?
I am opposed to Army teachers for one reason only. We're putting guns into a school. So not only is there going to be, and I'm sure they're going to be secured and locked up. Are you telling me some 16-year-old kid is not going to figure out what teacher has a gun in their classroom or what administrator has the gun in their office? So we're putting the guns into the school to combat the school. And I don't think it's fair for the teachers to have that responsibility. I can't imagine managing, and I go back to my mother. She had 26 first graders in her classroom. 26 little kids she had to keep an eye on. She's not gonna, you know, where is she gonna put a gun in her classroom that a 6-year-old is not gonna get and not play with? So I am totally against arming teachers. Guns should not be on school campuses nor on college campuses. I went to Kennesaw State, and I'm against the campus carry bill. I just think of my professors. You know, when I got a bad grade, what's not gonna stop somebody from bringing, you know, a gun to the classroom? Or a girl turned on a boy and it just happened. I mean, now you're talking about adults having guns on. So I'm against all kind of weaponry on schools.
We got time for one or two more questions, Rachel.
Yes, ma'am.
We recently had a discussion on our Facebook page about the senior tax exemption, property tax exemption. Yes. And it sounds like from what Charles said, that the teachers can't get together and get anything done.
That's correct.
By state law. What can be done? I didn't even know there was a problem.
Well, speaking with the teachers, you can't band together. It is against the law. But speaking for the property exemption, I believe it's 62. You're allowed to put an exemption to pay property taxes, and that is a very hot topic issue. Now, I've got a grandmother who's going to be 89 this year, and she hasn't paid property taxes, and I can tell you how long, but she really can't afford it. So that's a hot button issue, because either you pay for the property taxes, you pay for the school, because that's what people are most upset about, is you're not paying into a school, and everybody benefits across the board when you invest in the schools. But then you get the seniors in areas. I live in Woodstock. Our property value, because we just got our new property tax assessment, not the bill, but the assessment, and it went up another 20% from last year. And I looked at it, I'm like, this is ridiculous. I said, and I can't imagine being a senior on a fixed income right now when Social Security is so up in the air, having to pay for that. So that's where the big discussion and arguments come in, is should seniors have to provide for schools and pay for it, or should they be exempt from paying the property tax that goes to the school? So
62 is too young.
it could be 62 is too young. It could be where we come up with something and go, look, you shouldn't have to pay 100%, but what if you pay 20% or 25%? Because you still benefit from having the good schools around the area, and you benefit from the kids going to school and getting an education. So it'll be interesting.
Combination of age income.
Or yeah, that would be and say, so your income's going down, you're getting older, so you're paying a smaller percentage. I think everybody should invest in the public school. You know, having said my grandmother's 89, my parents will be 65 in a couple of years. As much as I know it straps them, it's still investing in your community, investing in your children who are going to be taken care and working and putting the tax dollars in. I do think something needs to be done now. I think it's fair, me paying for it where I'm still working and have income and have the ability to earn more and cover it than a senior who's on a very fixed income.
It's different in different areas.
Okay.
Cherokee County is different than Fulton County.
Yep.
Cities are different. City of Canton's different than the city of Roswell. So it depends on where you live in the state.
How much you have to pay. Yep.
And it's not your property tax, it is your school tax.
Yep.
You get other benefits over a certain age. It happens to be 62 years,
Yep.
but in some areas it's 65.
Yep.
In some areas there is none. In Roswell, in the city limits of Roswell, you not only have to be a certain age, but you have to have a certain income in order to get a break. And it's high. It's not low.
It's very
for
high.
Seniors, I lived in Roswell. I moved to Canton because I wanted to retire.
Yeah.
Because I would have to pay the taxes for the city of Roswell and Fulton County,
on top of Fulton
which are some of
County.
the highest in the state.
Yep. So, all right. Well,
you know, it's
thank you, Aggie, for that.
it's different.
It is different for everybody in your area. So, but thank you guys for letting me come and tell you kind of who I am, where I came from, what I'm running for. Feel free to reach out to me anytime. Thank you.
All right, and we have one more scheduled guest speaker, so I would just like to welcome our friend Nicole Bremer Nash, who's running for Senate District 21.
All right. Hello, Internet. I'm going to ask Robert to help me make sure I stay in the frame because I tend to wander a lot. Before I talk about myself, I promised one of my colleagues that I would apologize on his behalf. Adam Wynn was going to be here to say hello, but he has a death in the family and he had to leave. So he says hello, and he'll hopefully see you next month. My name is Nicole Bremer Nash. I'm running for State Senate in District 21. That's Holly Springs, Woodstock, the parts of those places that Rachel doesn't have. Part of Canton, and then I have Milton, Crabapple, Alpharetta, a whole bunch of Fulton County. It's a really interesting district, and one of the most interesting parts of it is the number of House seats that are in my district as well. So as a candidate, I'm getting to know a lot of other candidates and work together, which is really very much what I'm about. I really believe in servant leadership and collaboration. You're going to hear me talk a lot about compassionate common sense leadership. And I want to make sure that I'm always telling you, what does that mean? What does compassionate common sense leadership look like? Because it's not enough to be anti-Republican. We have to stand for something as well. Compassionate common sense leadership means building a bigger table, making sure everybody has a voice, because when we share power and when we listen to people, even those who disagree with us, we all gain power. Power is like love. There's plenty of it to go around, right? You have another child, you don't not love your first child, you just love more. Power is the same way, especially in a society that functions. Compassionate common sense leadership means that when we work together, Georgia can become a leader in clean energy and address climate change, all the way from our shores to our mountain. Georgia has sunshine in abundance. Georgia has a good solar power system happening here. We can do this. We can become a leader. California just passed a law that makes it where all new homes have to have solar power systems built in. We can move in that direction. We can make that happen. And when we do that, we will also be adding jobs, good jobs that don't necessarily take a college education. When we work together, Georgia can take our tax dollars back from the federal government and we can expand Medicaid. Expanding Medicaid is key to making sure that our children and our families can thrive. Expanding Medicaid is the first step toward single-payer health care, which I think that we need to be moving in that direction as a country. And I think that starting with expanding Medicaid. I would go so far as to say, not only should we expand Medicaid to the people right now that the federal government has allowed us to, we need to actually look at how do we expand Medicaid further? How do we stop saying, well, you have to be really poor to get healthcare, because we have a gap in our country when it comes to healthcare coverage where our working class still cannot afford it, even with insurance. When we talk about healthcare, I also like to talk about access, because access is a lot more than health insurance. Access means we actually have to have doctors and hospitals where people can get to them. That also means expanding public transit, because public transit makes a big difference in whether or not people can get to the doctor. We have to make sure that in our communities where people speak other languages, that we have medical professionals available to help them with that language barrier. Healthcare access is so much more than insurance. When we work together, we can improve public transit. I think that we absolutely must bring the light rail further up. Cobb County, I know, is having a big conversation about that right now. Sorry, Cobb County. But I think that Cherokee County needs to start stepping up and becoming a leader in that. The new ATL project makes some big changes. It doesn't go far enough. You're still going to end up stuck on a bus in traffic that doesn't have a faster route to downtown. In Cherokee County, we have families that are traveling all the way into Midtown and downtown for work on a daily basis. In addition, my own husband. In addition to improving public transit, I think we also need to really work hard to improve broadband internet access, and we need to work on public-private partnerships that encourage businesses to allow people to telecommute as much as possible. That will get people off the roads, out of traffic, which is better for the air pollution in our area. I don't know about you, but every time we have an orange day, I cringe. And it keeps people more at home in the community. It improves your family time and your family life. When people aren't spending their days in traffic, people are more likely to volunteer in their communities in the evenings, show up to meetings like this, because they have more time to be engaged. That's critical. When we work together, Georgia can improve gun safety. We have to improve gun safety. If the federal government won't do it, then the states must act. This is not a political issue in terms of their party, our party. This is a human issue. Our children are in danger. Like Rachel, every time my 13-year-old goes to school, I have this moment, please, Lord, not today, not at this school. That's absurd. No parent should feel that way. And I think right now we're at a place in our nation where, as a society, all parents feel that way. All people, parents are not, are feeling that way. And there's no reason that we can't work together and act to improve gun safety. I also think that Georgia needs to become a civil rights leader. I think that we need to make bigger strides to protect LGBTQ, marriage equality, people of color. We need to actually address the fact that we have robust communities of migrants who bring amazing culture to our state, who make us a better people collectively. And we need to actually address that. We need to make sure that those communities are getting what they need, and we need to make sure that they are being protected and embraced. We're better for having them here. Georgia can lead when we work together. Before Casey asks me, I will tell you I'm running. My opponent is Brandon Beach. The big difference between us is that he's not as big on working together as I am. He is also pro-unborn, is the terminology he uses. I am staunchly and fiercely and unapologetically pro-choice. I'm so pro-choice that I think that we need to make sure that women have access to birth control every place that we can possibly create that access. I'm so pro-choice, I think that we should be teaching our children how to have responsible relationships, how to take care of their own bodies. And we need to make sure that we are giving them the information and the healthcare access that they need to grow into responsible sexual beings as adults. That does not mean that we should be teaching our 5-year-olds, how everything works. Age appropriate. I even think that we need to have some kind of that education available to adults in our society, because I see a lot of adults who don't know how their own bodies work, who get surprised as we age and things start to change. I've met adults who don't understand how birth control works in their bodies. We have to fix that. That's a healthcare issue, and we need to make sure that our healthcare providers have the power to educate on these issues. They should also have the power to educate on smoking and making healthy food choices. It all comes together. And when our individuals are healthier, our workers are healthier, our society is healthier, we all thrive. Campaigns aren't just about candidates, though. The last couple of months, I've had the joy of having some really amazing volunteers, many of whom I've met in this very place with these very people. Thank you all so much. I'm going to introduce my new communications director, Amy Benson. She's in the back. So as much as when you're on my Facebook and Twitter, I respond to you, sometimes you're going to get Amy if I'm tied up, just a heads up. She will make sure that I do get those messages, though. You won't just be put off onto my team. That said, Amy also has information and a sign-up sheet for volunteering if you'd like to learn more. We have flyers with the web address and how to find us on social media. It's Nash4Georgia, all spelled out, .com. And I look forward to hearing more from you all about what you're experiencing in your neighborhoods, in your communities, and what you need from your legislature. Thank you.
Any questions for Rachel?
Nicole.
Sorry. Nicole.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't know if you mentioned Alpharetta, I think, part of Alpharetta?
Yes.
Okay. McKesson Pharmaceuticals is probably the main culprit and manufacturer of OxyContin. They happen to also be a big part of like wanting to like take no responsibility and be in no way like liable for what's been going on.
Mm-hmm.
And my question is, do you have any kind of viewpoint and stand and plans to do anything if they're in your district? I don't know.
Whether or not they're in my district, as a legislator, yes, I'd better be willing to address the opioid epidemic. It's hurting our families, and honestly, I'm sure you all know this, but it's in every community. We're not separate from that, right? And looking at the numbers, even in our nicest neighborhoods, that's happening and that's affecting us. My background is in health advocacy. I wrote a book about how people access the healthcare system. Then I spent years working in for a nonprofit that advocates for healthcare and healthcare changes, including things like addressing the opioid epidemic. I think we need to do several things regarding that. One, I think that we need to crack down on drug commercials. They don't serve a good purpose. And when we have drug commercials that are pushing painkillers, it's not serving a purpose that serves our society. Two, I think that one of the ways to help ease the opioid epidemic is to expand access to medical marijuana. We know from data and research that is a viable alternative to a lot of painkillers that would help ease that problem. Now, when I say expand access to medical marijuana, in the state of Georgia, we have medical marijuana, but what we do not have is actual tangible access to it. We don't have a legal way to obtain it. So I can have that piece of paper that says I can have it. It doesn't do me any good if I can't get my hands on it. I met somebody yesterday whose best friend died of cancer last year, and her doctor said that medical marijuana was the best option to ease her pain. This was not a saving situation, okay? This was a ease her pain, keep her comfortable situation. They could not get it. So instead she ended up on opioids and other medicines that had additional, side effects. When we talk about this, we have to talk about how do we make it accessible. We know how to do these things. One thing that you're gonna hear from me all the time is, don't tell me we can't fix a problem. Every problem we have, we created. Right? The human race creates problems. We can fix the problems we make. Additionally, we have to have a real conversation about, okay, so who's culpable? Because the pharmaceutical companies that go into doctors' offices that push opioids, knowing what they do to people, they're culpable. The doctors who continued to push opioids on patients instead of actually addressing the health concern that was creating the pain in the first place are culpable. Not to say every doctor does that, but we know that for 2 decades a lot of them did. So I hope that answers your question.
Because the colleges are being subsidized by the pharmaceutical, the medical subsidized by the pharmaceutical companies.
Well, we also need to do something about the fact that we are paying for all of that. This argument that we pay more for our drugs here than any other developed nation, and they say, well, it's because America's paying for the research and development.
That should make it cheaper.
Why are we paying for all of that? Yes, ma'am.
I was doing some research a couple of days ago with Lynn website, and I learned that prescription drugs only account for about 40% of overdoses. That 60% of it involves, well, more than 60%, because sometimes it's prescriptions plus, but far more illicit drugs are responsible for overdoses than prescriptions. And all anybody talks about are keeping them out of our hands when we might need them. And I would really like to see that argument get a little more balanced. Which means
That's a very fair
it's
point.
not just communities and doctors, it's law enforcement.
Mhm.
And it's more effective laws and more effective enforcement.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And we do need to make sure that we are empowering our law enforcement. Not just empowering them to handle it, but teaching them. What does that look like? What are you looking for? Because it's a different sort of a drug, right, than what they've been trained in the past in terms of how do you spot it, right? That's a very good point.
Law enforcement officers are getting OD'd searching suspects' cars.
Yeah, that's happening
more and more.
That's a really scary issue. Rachel looks like she knows something about this, and I'm gonna. Yeah. Yeah.
But it's beyond fentanyl. Now there are especially high.
Well, people are getting hooked on it through pharmaceuticals.
Right.
They're prescribed by the doctor. So they over prescribe, patient overtakes, now they're hooked on it. They can't get any more of it from their doctor because the doctor said, no, I'm not getting any more. So they go to the illicit sources.
And as we.
Are part of the factors, but people are just going to the streets to get whatever. Heroin is much cheaper.
Yeah. As we address this issue, though, we do have to make sure that we are protecting the patients who do need these medications. My sister is having a series of surgeries this year, and when she had her first one, we were given a prescription that was supposed to last her, they told us it was supposed to last 5 days, but that she was supposed to take it every 4 hours. Stay on top of that every 4 hours, right? Stay on top of the pain, it's important. This is a woman who's never done drugs in her life, right? She's very responsible, very healthy with her body. We ended up, turns out that every 4 hours is not 5 days worth, it's 3 days worth. So we ended up on a Friday evening running out of the pain pills. And our only option at that point was ibuprofen. This is a woman who'd had her torso significant surgery. Saturday morning, I'm on the phone with the insurance company, I'm on the phone with the doctor's office, I'm at the pharmacy having to fight to get, literally, we needed 1 more day so that we could transition her to the ibuprofen. And it was a fight. We did it, we managed it. It was a fight. This coming week, she's having a double mastectomy, and we're already trying to make sure that we can get the medication that she needs before the surgery so that I don't have an outpatient situation where my sister can't get the pain relief that she needs after having a double mastectomy. So we do have to protect those patients as well. I think part of that is that if we are going to spend all this money on R&D, so let's create some better painkillers to help surgical patients without the risk of them getting addicted.
Well, one more question for Nicole. Yeah.
I just, this whole conversation is, where is, like, in these pharmaceutical companies that are making huge profits, there's like not a cent for rehab in any of this R&D, in any of their profits. There's nothing that goes back in terms of their part of it. So, I mean, just like in NRA, you should have to take out an insurance policy if you're going to buy a gun. there has to be some accountability on the part of these corporations.
I agree.
And nobody talks about that.
I agree.
So,
Also, if we're going to make them
Put
find rehab, though, we need to make sure that we're actually looking at the rehab centers, because we do have an issue in this country where John Oliver just spoke to this, where a lot of these rehab centers are not actually regulated at all. They don't have any rules. They don't have any accountability. So when they do take that money in, we have patients coming out that aren't actually rehabilitated, that aren't actually leaving that system to improve their lives. So we have to keep going with that, though, not just say, okay, you have to fund it. We have to make sure that we're backing it up. I'm going to say one last thing.
Yes.
Sorry, about gun control. If you haven't seen it yet, I know a lot of you have, please find Nash for Georgia on Facebook. Adam Wynn and I put out a video that I'm honestly pretty proud of, where we talk about what we need to do in tangible and tangible ways, things that we can do in Georgia to improve gun safety. And also, frankly, we tell you that the NRA is not freedom's safest place. Freedom's safest place is a functional democracy that takes care of each other. Thank you.
I just want to thank all three of our featured speakers here. Very excited about our upcoming campaigns. Any seat can be taken, and if you look at these primaries, I was actually just looking on Ballotpedia for the turnout in all three of their areas, and things look encouraging. So we're looking forward to this November. Before we get into some of the group business, we're gonna have just a quick, stand up and just tell us a little bit about where your campaign's at for anybody here who's running for office or surrogates for candidates running for office. If you want to just take like 5 minutes, you can stand where you are. If you want to come up here in front of the camera, you can, and just kind of give us an update, tell us a little bit about where you're at. And I'll just kind of call some people out as I see you here, but make sure I don't forget anybody. But so I guess we can start off with Sid Chapman running for state school superintendent.
Would you like to spot back here?
Yes.
Okay. First, I want to say thank you. Thank you so much for charity turnout, East Cobb, Indivisible, and Indivisible all over. I really appreciate it very much. Now we've got the runoff coming July 24th. I need informed voters to go back to the polls and inform the public that you know who the best candidate is to be the state school superintendent of Georgia, and that is Sid Chapman, the educator. The Sid Chapman who leads educators, has been elected to lead educators by educators, and has been down at the Capitol for years, and I know the laws, and I've worked with them, and so nationally and at the state, everything that we do is through the law. And so we don't have bargaining like a lot of the other states, and they're about to lose that too, some of them. So I really need you to inform people that they need to get back early voting, absentee, it's the summertime. You covered a lot of stuff for me, Rachel, and that's great. And the gun issue is a very huge, it's just made its way to the front. These local school systems that have voted to arm teachers need to have their minds or someone examine them really quickly. I'm not anti-gun, anti-Second Amendment, but just as you said, guns and arms, in the hands of teachers in the classroom is terrible. It's a recipe for disaster. I was speaking to some ex-military, ex-gun, ex-security people, law enforcement that are teachers now, and they said these folks do not realize there's not enough training that's going to let you know. Remember, these shooters that come in are students. Are you ready to shoot a child? Most of the shooters are students. Are you ready to do that? No, there's other ways that we can make our schools safe. We have to invest in more security, and there's mechanisms that will isolate the intruder, and there's a lot of different ways that we can do that, but it's going to take investment. We got to go into the legislature with the idea that students come first, and we've got to get that message across. You don't do it by making it a prison or turning teachers into vigilantes. I mean, it just doesn't work that way. And so we've got to do a better job. Also, I don't know how time goes fast for me. Yeah, you give me a platform. Thank you, everybody, for voting, and go out and vote again. you want me to take a quick question? I mean, yes, ma'am.
Rampant racism in our schools and a serious lack of separation of church and state. Horrifying. I only moved here 6 years ago, and I'm just horrified.
So which one you want me to take first?
I didn't know together.
Well, I was born and raised in a small town in Georgia, and this is my good friend Lavinia Jackson, who is my campaign manager. She is the past president of Georgia Association of Educators and the immediate past superintendent of Clayton County Public Schools, where I've been a teacher most of my life, or career rather. Well, live too, I guess, at this point. But it is a problem, and we have to continue to grow and evolve out of these things. I think that our elections show that we're doing much better with the election of Stacey Abrams, and within the schools, sometimes it's classism, sometimes it's racism, and the immigrants that are there. A young man was telling me the other day that he said, Mr. Z, he doesn't work for me. He's from Mexico, and his family just wonderful people. And he's a doctor, and they're so afraid that they're going to have to go back. He's in school, he's learning. He's an A student, straight A student, has to pay international tuition. That's insane. And sitting on edge whether or not he would be sent back. So, and he told me something that really, almost brought me, if I start talking about it, I may cry anyway. He said, Mr. said, I wish sometimes I looked like you. And that was the first time I ever really, truly realized my white privilege. And so I've heard about it, knew about it, but I really felt it at that point. And so we got to work toward a more perfect union and showing love. Religion in schools, there's a lot of questions come about that. But people know that I have a religious background, but I'm a progressive, in my religion. There's no way that I would want in a public school to tell a Jewish person or Islamic person or any other kind of religion that they had to pray like I pray or believe like I believe. So if someone asked me, should we bring prayer in schools? And I said, there's no way that you could possibly do it in a corporate way, but people come into school every day. You can pray any way you want to. You got your own personal way to do it, even if you're not disrupting something. So that's the difference. And of course, in teaching history and teaching geography and cultures, religion comes up, and you have to study religion in that respect. So, but you have I think you're meaning those that say, we got to get back to the Bible and get back to the Christian.
Well, we're praying in every event. You can't pray in school. That's illegal. Passing out Bibles to students is illegal.
Well, that's something that everybody's going to have to work on in local school districts, because I think that's decided, this amount of superintendent there, that's decided in those locals. So you need to, your board members and that sort of thing. And if somebody doesn't want, that's a tall order, but that's something, I tell you, you need to work on who you elect as your local school board. Yes, ma'am.
I've heard you talk at a lot of events all around, and I actually haven't heard you say anything about special education and what you feel are the priorities to getting that system working better for students, working so it's not disproportionately affecting minority students and getting into what they actually need.
Okay, well, my campaign manager happens to be the special ed coordinator, was for many years in my system. So I've learned a lot about special ed and, of course, mainstreaming. I've learned through that, but being in the classroom. But the funding that comes from the federal government, it is the job of the state school superintendent for efficiency and the welfare of all students to make sure that the funding is there and make sure it is done in an equitable way. And so much of our funding comes from taxes. You talked about that a lot. The equalization formula, QBE, all of that stuff is totally messed up. And we need to go back to the table, sit down and rethink it. And as far as special needs students, with social workers, counselors, what counselors are in schools now, guidance counselors, are nothing but schedulers and taking care of testing. And so the special ed department, it gets cut. So we really need to make sure that our students are taken care of. Yes, that's high on my list, but it's a tall order, and a lot of that funding comes from the federal government, and it has to be funneled through the correct ways. And there are a lot of laws, IDEA, and that sort of thing. Does that answer your question? Okay.
That's it. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Appreciate your vote. Go back to the polls. I need you.
We'll also post all of our other candidates or guests here. We'll post their information as well. So a couple more people that are here. I see Matt Southwell. Come up and help.
Hey everybody, my name is Matt Southwell. I'm running for the State House of Representatives in District 34. For those of you who don't know where 34 is, that's down in Kennesaw, downtown Kennesaw, KSU, Kennesaw Mountain, really a lot of Kennesaw, and a bit of North Marietta. I won my uncontested primary with not that big a win, given that it's uncontested, but the numbers are really what's inspiring, because I've been comparing with the Democratic turnout in 2016, and I am so thrilled to say that District 34 this year had almost triple the Democratic turnout. But you want to know what the icing on the cake is? Republican turnout was down 15%. That tells me that District 34 and so many other districts are very, very flippable, and we are going to make that happen in November. But it's a long road to get there, and just like every other candidate running for office right now, it's going to take money, it's going to take volunteers, boots on the ground, knocking on doors, making phone calls, writing postcards to voters. It's a long road in November. We all need all the help that we can get. If you know anyone in the Kennesaw area, please send them my way. If you're not involved with a campaign, I don't care if it's mine or any of the other fine candidates we've heard from today, get involved, knock on some doors, make some phone calls, talk to your neighbors about why we, the Democrats, are the right choice to move Georgia forward through the 21st century. Any questions? All right. I'm sorry? Sid and I have talked about this. My last name is Southwell to most people, but the original old British pronunciation, I've only had one person get this right in my entire life. It was my Shakespeare professor at KSU, Dr. Keith Patel. He's a great guy, love him to death. It's actually pronounced Southwell, according to the Brits. But, you know, we're here in the South. So it's Southwell, and in November we need to make sure District 34 will vote well and vote Southwell.
Lord, I'd like to speak for Sarah Vita.
Okay, thank you. Hello, Internet world. I had a chance to pass these out to the first two rows, but anyone else who would like a pen, it's just a small token of swag, and also a reminder, it has SarahForGeorgia.com on there, and why I want you to have it is because there's a link at the Get Involved tab where you can sign up to help with the campaign. And the facts are that we cannot do it alone, and we need every single person in here to do something for someone, just like Matt said. You don't want to directly help Sarah's campaign, although I certainly hope that you do. Please pick a candidate that you can invest time and energy and your resources in that campaign, whatever it is. Sarah, if you haven't had a chance to meet her, she did come to the Indivisible United Voices for Humanity meetings, and I think we might be maybe hosting a party for those groups to get together. So stay tuned for that. But if you haven't had a chance to meet her, find an event where you can speak with her one-on-one. To speak with Sarah, to know her, is to understand that she is the right person for this job, and you will be able to take that message and spread it to every person you know, whether they're already a Democrat or they just don't know it yet. Okay, so please help us out. If you want a pen, I have more if I run out, and I can grab them from the car. And if you have questions about how to volunteer, I'm more than happy to help you. And also, I can do a training at any point for anybody who would like some. If you've never done phone banking before, it's really not that hard. It's kind of fun. And I won't make you call people who will be hostile to you, I promise. Like, I only give you friendlies. If you've never knocked the door before, we can help with that. If you aren't sure how to, what to say in a postcard. So it's easy, it's fun, and it really, really does make a difference. So thank you. SarahForGeorgia.com, get involved. Please fill out the form. Your name? I'm Laura. Laura, Laura, at Sarah with an H for Georgia.com.
I'm missing any other candidates or surrogates for candidates. I think that's everybody. All right. Yes.
I failed to mention my website.
Yes.
CitraSuper.com.
CitraSuper.com.
And also, I've asked you to show the interview from both posted, and I don't know if
Yes.
that posted. Please encourage people to watch that.
Definitely. We're going to repost media for everybody who's here. And I just want to also say, too, before we have the show until 4 o'clock, and we're going to get into the few quick items of business as a group. But I want to say with regards to the primaries, we're all very happy about how the primaries worked out for everybody in this room. They've all done very well. But it's really important not only that we get out the vote, and we need to do get out the vote efforts. I know plenty of people in here have been involved in get out the vote efforts. But it's not just a matter of getting out the vote. We have to get out the vote, but we have to also follow up and make sure people are informed. I won't just say like, I don't want to say anything bad about anybody here, but some of you may have followed what happened in House District 40 in the primary there. You had Eric Allen, who's highly qualified, ran a great campaign, was showing up at events left and right. He's just outside of our neighborhood, but he's one of our neighbors, and was showing up at events left and right, engaging with voters, had a serious campaign. There was a woman who put herself on the ballot, paid the $400 fee. Her name was Sandra Bullock. And because enough people went to vote who didn't care about down ballot races at all, this woman named Sandra Bullock won the primary. She has no website. She has not met with voters, has made no effort to reach out to them. Now, I know people who've actually spoken with her since, and she feels kind of guilty, and maybe she will step up now and hopefully do something and engage the people that she allegedly wants to represent. But the point being is that down ballot races matter a lot. A whole lot. And Eric Allen, African-American, highly qualified candidate who was very passionate, lost his primary to someone who had no information available on her whatsoever because her name was Sandra Bullock and enough voters thought, it'd be funny to put that person down. Or they actually thought Sandra Bullock was running in our state. And so it's unfortunate. Overall, the primaries have gone very well, but this is just a reminder that we here are the ones who are hyper involved by going to meetings like this on a Saturday, that we have to get out the vote, but we also have to make sure people are informed about candidates. So that is just absolutely vital. So I want one more round of applause for everybody who spoke today. Thank you so much. Now we're going to get into some items of business just as a group with the time